Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I've got another first impressions video, which is going to be Wally. He's the other character that's going to be released alongside Simba. Now, I've had a look at his kit very briefly. It does look very interesting. It does look like a lot of testing will be needed to kind of figure out who he optimizes with, but definitely very interesting kit. So let's dive into it. Okay, so if we look at his attributes real quick, they don't look too amazing. They just look kind of standard. They are less exciting than Simba's, because Simba had 10k health and 9k defense. So he's in a bit more of the normal range for a tank. The last thing I want really as a tank is to have to operate them so much. I do love Maui, but I often find I'm having to control him in battles and run around with him, and that's the last thing I want really with another tank. However, he does have very interesting abilities. So we look at his core ability. So Wally is immune to wound and poison, which makes sense because he's a robot, and he cannot be healed, which also makes sense because he's a robot. However, when Wally is the target of a heal effect, he gains 5% armor. Instead of healing, we've got armor gain going on. So at least when you're using Mickey's mass heal or another character like Belle or any of the other healers, he's going to gain some armor at least from that heal. And whenever a buff on Wally expires, he's going to also gain 5% armor, and that one's quite interesting. I can imagine that being pretty useful with certain characters that give out lots of buffs. If you compare him up with a character that just constantly gives out buffs, he's going to be gaining a ton of armor, and that might keep him around despite his limited healing. And then every 10 seconds, Wally's going to gain a 5% defense buff, and this is just going to kind of fit in with his armor gain. Right, moving on to his special ability, full tank. This seems a bit underwhelming for a special ability. He's just going to gain defense buffs for 5 seconds and then knock back enemies, so he doesn't do any damage here. And this is really just going to help him with his armor gain. Knockback is okay. There's no stun. There's no attack damage here, so it's not the most amazing special ability, but it does have like a reasonably fast cooldown. And then moving on to his signature abilities. So this is actually when Wally heals. So when Wally is the target of a heal effect, he gains a heal charge. So he'll gain a bit of armor from his core ability, and then he'll gain a heal charge. And then there's a max of 3 stacks. And if Wally uses his special ability when he has 3 heal charges, all heal charges are removed and he is healed for 25% health. Now that's quite a large amount of healing. However, it does seem a bit fidgety. And what I mean by that is you're going to have to time his special ability when he has 3 heal charges, and those heal charges are only gained when he's the target of a heal effect. So in theory, you would need characters around him to use healing 3 times, for then him to gain 3 heal charges, for then him to use his special ability to remove those heal charges and heal himself. This is where we're going to need a bit of testing, and this is where I'm not super excited about him, because I feel like he's going to be quite difficult to keep alive if his armor gain can't keep up. And we'll have to see depending on pairings of guardians with him. Right, now moving on to his talents. So Wally does actually have some interesting talents, even on basic. So there's reinforced shred. So he's actually going to break chroma stones, and these are kind of colored stone looking things on the floor. So if they're green, they'll heal you. So that's interesting. So it's other basic. The interesting thing about that is if an enemy with shock is defeated, Wally will gain 1 junk buff. And you're going to see what these junk buffs are. I'll just show you there. These are just 0% attack buffs. So these are just like fake buffs, I imagine. However, it's going to feed into his armor gain. So now moving on to his advanced talents, we've got reduce, reuse, and recycle, which is fitting because he's a trash robot. And what have we got? So whenever an enemy with a buff is defeated, Wally has 100% of gaining a junk buff. So this is what we were talking about before. These junk buffs aren't going to do anything, but they're going to help his armor gain. Then we've got reuse, and when I like this one. So when an ally's buff expires or is purged, Wally grants them 5% armor. So I can imagine this working quite well with someone like Hercules, who he gains so many buffs. So once he gets purged or once those buffs expires, he's just going to get a lot of armor. So that's a really interesting advanced talent. Then recycle. If an enemy has a buff removed or purged, Wally has a 100% chance of gaining a junk buff for 10 seconds. So this is kind of similar to the reduce, in that he's going to gain a junk buff when certain conditions are met. So in this one, it's if a buff is removed or purged, You'll probably have to choose between those two, I imagine. And then lastly, we're going to look at his elite talent. So each time an enemy's debuff is removed, expires, or is cleansed, Wally has a 100% chance to gain the junk buff. And if an enemy has a buff purged, Wally grants all allies 5% armor. So this might work with allies that are able to purge pretty well. So very interesting kit. I can't decide from these first impressions where he's going to fit and whether he's going to be great or whether he's going to be awful. I think he's going to be dependent on characters he's playing with and on these talents. The healing does concern me a little bit. And then lastly, we'll just look at his traits really quickly. So he is a goofball and he's high tech, so he doesn't have the double trait that Simba does. However, he can at least be used in one tower. And we'll have to see how he does in dungeons. Maybe he'll be a Bowser's Guardian every now and then. We'll see. And that's the video for today, guys. Unfortunately, I don't have any gameplay for him. But when he gets released, maybe I'll get him to test him out. I'm definitely excited, more excited about Simba. And I will be wailing on Simba. I'm not sure I'll be wailing on Wally, but I might unlock him. So we'll just have to see. I hope you enjoyed the videos, guys. Please give me a thumbs up if you do. And subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.